Welcome to the Book Dormer. It's Michael again, and today we're going to be talking about book clubs, specifically subscription book clubs for science fiction, fantasy, horror, some sort of speculative fiction, dystopian. I guess you could argue some of these probably cross into the pure romance category, but I think some of those probably also count as speculative fiction, depending which type you're reading. First off, I want to set some ground rules just to scope it. We are talking about specifically book clubs, so these are subscription services, so clubs with a service, not just ones that you can just go order special editions from. We're talking about ones that particularly have a subscription involved with them. So that would exclude something like Subterranean Press or the Folio Society. Instead, I'm aiming more for, well, the ones you're going to talk about. Secondly, special editions only. So that's going to include something like the OG of book clubs, which is Book of the Month Club, which will send you a hardcover, and you get, but it's a normal hardcover. And specifically, I'm talking about these kind of more fun special editions, because that's just what I've been into. And that's really what the book clubs use to get you in, because they have to have some sort of hook. They got to do something different. For me, when I found them, well, I was hunting Malazan. I'm going to keep going with Malazan because that's what the narrator says. Malazan hardcovers, and trying to get a set of those that matches instead of having a mishmash set of stuff from like random European countries. Was going after a nice, smooth version, which of course is going to come from Europe because, yeah. We'll talk about that. You're going to notice there's a lot of British systems coming here, and that's because just how rights work. A lot of times in the United States, or a lot of times if you sell a book, you get US English rights and you get World English, and they're kind of separate. And the World English will usually be British English. And so you have the US market, which is the bigger market, and the US or rights holders oftentimes aren't going to let a bunch of smaller groups run with shorter amounts of books. And if they do, maybe it's going to be something more like a Subterranean Press, a Grim Oak, these very good but a little expensive systems. Also, apologies for the glasses. I'm going to wear them for partially because I did type up notes, because there's a lot of book clubs. We'll get talking about that. So let's just go see these. And again, remember, subscription required and special edition required. And some sort of speculative fiction. So the most popular one is going to be Fairy Loot. They have really figured out the book box. In fact, that's their thing. It's not just a book. Most of these are going to send you a book with some stuff. And the stuff could be, I don't know, a plate. It could be a knickknack for your shelves. It could be a towel. There's a bunch of them. And we'll actually kind of talk through. I do not typically get the box. In fact, I've actually never gotten one of the boxes in yet. I have ordered one. I'll talk about it when we get to it. But that was because it's Halloween. And I just know my Halloween family will be taking it, and it's not just going to go to waste. Now, several of these also will sell you a book-only version if you want. But their buzz, like the thing that really got people going on them, is kind of that combination between a fancy edition of a book and something fun. And it's that dopamine rush when you get a box of goodies in. So first up, Fairy Loot. Based out of the UK, they do actually have a US site, and they do have US employees, so they will sell some of their stuff from the United States. They have adult subscription, they have a YA subscription, and a romantasy subscription, and good on them for calling those out separately. I think their adult is will spread between. They also have coming up in a quarterly epic fantasy, and I am very interested in seeing what their quarterly epic fantasy is, because their normal subscription books that don't really grab me. I'm not the target audience for them, I think would be the right way to say it. All right, we'll see if I can do this without that. Now we can get the full raccoon effect. They definitely have a ton of subscribers. When they have a sale, people rush. It is a madhouse on how many people are trying to get some of their books. But we're going to talk about that because there's a kind of a darker, seedier side to it, which is that the ones that are popular aren't actually in their subscription, but the subscribers get first access. Yeah, we'll get into that. This is kind of the FOMO or the carrot that they're using. Also, they have the worst website I've seen in a decade. I don't know who did this. They must own the company. Or somebody's kid did it. It's got to be something like that. That little stupid Java purple thing they have moving across is just beyond bad. I'm talking about MySpace called and said, hey, don't you want some MIDI files to go with this? It's nasty. And now you have proof that I am not a shill who put them first because they paid me. Because I wouldn't have said that if I was. All right, next up is Illumicrate, also out of the United Kingdom. I do actually have an Illumicrate subscription. In fact, I have an Illumicrate, and I also have their horror subscriptions. So I actually can talk about what theirs. I do have some Fairy Loot books, but I bought them all used. I have bought one set from them that I got in one of their public sales, and it hasn't arrived yet. So back to Illumicrate, YA and adult. Also, they have Afterlight, which is a romance. They have Evernight, which is horror. And they now have Starbright coming, which is sci-fi. That one's coming out early 2025. You can see there's a couple of those sci-fi ones coming in 2025. Very excited. I'm really excited to see what Illumicrate would do with this. If Fairy Loot is more pure romance, Illumicrate tends to mix it up. They are definitely way more focused on trying to be diverse. Perhaps too far. I don't know. If you watch it online, man, wow, there is some toxicity on their Instagram. By the way, don't read these groups' Instagrams. Don't do it, because all of them will have people who are just really passionate, and then they're like, "Oh, I don't want to hear about that topic." I'm like, "Cool, don't buy the book." Seems kind of simple, but people get irate about things. Yeah, who would have thought on the internet? Illumicrate is from the UK as well. Their shipping costs actually really suck to send to the United States. However, they do have a US warehouse. So if you get their monthly box, my monthly box, their adult comes from the United States. So the shipping rates are reasonable. Evernight, called it Evernote. You can tell I'm a techie. Now their Evernight, that comes from the UK, and the shipping's pretty high. Unfortunately, is what it is. By the way, if anybody ever wanted to have the election thing that would win here in the States, I mean, obviously the obvious one is just ban the robocalls. Be the one who promises it and makes it happen. I don't know, send missiles after them. I don't care. Ban those things. You do that, yeah, you're probably winning. The other one, bookies, you figure out cheap shipping from the UK so we can get books. And I guess you could turn it around and give it back to them too. That way the UK and the Europeans can get like Kickstarters at lower price. Next up, Owlcrate, based out of the United States. Started as a YA group. Moved into adult fantasy. I do have the YA subscription, and I had that because, well, it was available. As we'll see, some of these subscriptions take a while to get into, and Owlcrate's adult fantasy is on that list. But they have 4 quarterlies coming up as well. They have sci-fi, they have romantasy, romance, and horror. So I did order the sci-fi, got in. I like their way of doing things. In fact, actually, I like a lot of Owlcrate's business practices. One, they put on things like a free conference. There's a free conference over the weekend. You just go onto their free website, the Nest, and join and watch it. Like, that's awesome. And they have a Discord that's pretty active. Illumicrate has a Discord that's pretty active. So it's fun to actually get in and talk topics and see things. Like, there was a session on the artists. It was just 3 of the artists and what their processes are. Absolutely fascinating. Like, I never put that much time into figuring out. I mean, obviously font, like on a book, fonts matter. But I never put that much time into the actual lettering that goes along with the font. And that's really cool to me. All right. And they geeked out on it, and I geeked right along with them. So that's Outcrate. Again, they're from the US, so shipping for me, pretty darn nice. Sorry, folks overseas, because I know it's rough going the other direction. Next up is the one who, well, let's just say that whole shelf, that whole shelf, that whole shelf, the three above it, the one above this one, where I got my little rainbow shelf, the one above that, these ones behind here, those are all broken binding. I am absolutely addicted to broken binding. I can't help myself. The books are good. They have good, not only do they choose books I like, because they definitely have a lot of adult epic type fantasy. They also are good quality. Their prices are within reason good. I mean, yeah, sometimes they get a little expensive. Like Malazan was, I think, oh gosh, 180 or so to get the box. Yeah, of course I was ordering it. It's Malazan. It's only the best science fiction or fantasy series ever. So yeah, that one's going to tick somebody off. But join our cult. Join the Malazan cult and you'll understand. They have a very different system. They have, on their book system or their subscription, they originally had the fantasy subscription, which turned into the tier 1 subscription. Now the tier 1 subscribers, they get once a month, and they have to pay, right? You pay in, they get once a month, they get a signed and numbered book. Whereas for those of us, or people in the tier 2, and they decided there was so many people who wanted in, it was years, like it was like 5 to 7 years to get in. It's higher now, by the way. But they decided to open up to tier 2, which is a signed book. Still not, I mean, it's still a good book. I get them, but they're not numbered, and yeah, it is funky weird how much that does affect when you've got a bunch of numbered ones. You want them all to be numbered. We'll talk about that. That's, again, a lot of these are these like little things that just make you, I don't know, get into a group and buy more from them, apparently. That's the fantasy tier. They also have a bi-monthly science fiction subscription. Somehow I missed that one when it came out, so I'm still waiting to try to get into both. We'll actually talk a little bit later about some concepts I've heard from people postulating that maybe it's not worth getting in. I disagree, but I can understand some of the logic. So we'll talk about that. Maybe there's something to be said for it because it got that popular. Other ones, let's keep going. LitJoy Crate. I am a subscriber on LitJoy Crate. Actually, I like their method. Their method is $10 a month, and whatever you put into it, you get enough points that it's basically $10 worth of credit. And you get 24-hour early access to the books. So you get things earlier than other people are going to get them. All right, so they're giving it out to everybody. They still sell them, but yeah, you get this early access, and there's some other perks to their benefits. I did not expect to ever become a Lunicorn, but here we are, because I have their membership. LitJoy is also out of the United States. Broken Binding's UK. Broken Binding, man, I wish they had a US shop. I don't know how they would. They're a small bookstore. It's great. Obviously, I'm a big fan. LitJoy, United States. Oh yeah, that's so nice to see $5.99 shipping versus the 13 pounds that I usually get hit with. 13 pounds will make like $18, $19 per book. Yeah, it's a little rough. Compare that to $5.99, or for those of us who have other subscriptions, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, I get free shipping from. But they're not subscription services quite the same. They're members, but they have like $25 memberships type thing. Now let's keep going. Goldsboro, the GSFF. That's hard to say. So it's science fiction fantasy. It was one of the very early popular ones. They definitely were rocking it. They may have had some trip ups. I am on the wait list for that too. Yeah, I know. We'll see. We'll talk about once some of these wait lists come in, what we're going to do. And some people are going to get voted off the island because you can't afford them all. And if you can, you still can't read them all. So And yes, I know I haven't read everything back there, but there's intention. Goldsboro also has a premiere, which is a non-science fiction fantasy one. You've got Inkstone, which is a quarterly subscription. I'm also on the wait list for that. I'm assuming it's in a couple months on that one. We'll hope. Book boxes. If you can't have a glass of wine with a book box, what are you doing? So Inkstone, they're science fiction fantasies. They will let you see them, and if they have extras, they sell them. I have actually not received anything from Inkstone other than the original backings before I got my Bro Darts for the book covers, right, to keep the book covers safe. Other than them, no, I think I've had a book that was supposed to be here in June. They had some issue with the publisher. And if they talked more, if they explained what was going on more, I'd be happier. They are a little rough on the letting you know things. And I think that's the biggest thing is communication. Just put on your Instagram, just post. And it'll be like, oh, okay. Like, we understand. I actually appreciate when the company says, hey, the version we got in from the publisher was not the quality we're going to sell you. I actually appreciate that. I just would like to know about it so I could, I don't know, buy a copy of the book I wanted to read. A few others that Page and Wick. I have actually got a Page and Wick. Actually, let me snag it because this is should be finishing up today. With Sword of Kaigan. Which is such a different book for them than anything else. So right there, beautiful book, right? And this is one of those books that makes you appreciate. I mean, yes, it's thick, but those are thick pages. All those are nice. Makes reading fun. Makes it enjoyable. But they have a subscription service. That was actually non-subscription. That was outside the subscription, but I was able to get it. Their subscription, their thing is they will send you goodies. By the way, as will most of these crates, they'll send you goodies. Limit Crate be happy to send it to you. Owl Crate will be happy to send you goodies. In fact, Owl Crate, I did actually get their goodies box for Halloween. So first time getting goodies. We'll see if it's worth the $30. I have my doubts. Page and Wick is a Kindle. Now they actually sent a Kindle with that, which smelled like old man leather, which you think I'd be into, but no. But wife liked it, and she said it was really good. So there you go. They have adult and new adult, so they might get a little spicier. Sometimes, like this month, their special couldn't ship to the U.S., so they have a special one coming out, I think, like this week, and they don't have rights to ship it to the U.S. So you'd have to use a forwarding service or have a friend bring it over to you. If I had a friend coming anytime soon, I probably would have. But it's months until I see friends from the UK. Well, probably half a year. So I'm like, didn't work out. Some other ones, Phoenix Crate, which their stick, because of course you got to stand out, their stick is clean fantasy. Clean fantasy. Yes, well, otherwise known as we can probably kill millions, maybe billions, but there's not going to be any boobies. Or also called Noble Bright. And maybe, I don't know, I didn't look into it too hard. Maybe it's just happier ending fantasy. Because there is grimdark. I mean, I like my grimdark, but there is, sometimes you just want to read a happy book. And I get it. I completely get the world sometimes beats us down. We'd rather have happiness. Let's do it. I haven't touched their stuff though. I don't know. I was just did that when I was researching this. Some other, there is a bunch of romanticies. Oh my goodness, are there a lot of romanticy book clubs that I'm not going to subscribe to. But Fox and Wit, Luck Library actually has some pretty good looking books. Probably Smut. I'm assuming that's pure romance. I love audacious names like that. Probably Smut. It's like, yeah, you go. Bookish Box also is a lot of romanticy. And there's a bunch of others. If you go out to, say, the Instagram list, and we'll hit one later, I'll pop the names up. You look at it, and it's like, oh my goodness, there's so many. I mean, you could quite literally have 40 or 50 boxes showing up. And then there's ones in other languages. There is one in German. I am not going to try to pronounce it for you. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. But I don't pronounce anything with two umlauts. That's a good way. And apparently there's some French ones too, which would be good. I mean, you'd assume they'd be there in different languages. And if you haven't seen, a lot of the European countries, Germany, Poland, France, just knock it out of the park with their special editions. Just beautiful. Like, I know people who buy them and have no idea on the language, but they wanted the artwork that is that book. All right, so that is our little run through. Now we're going to switch over to, let's talk about how these things work. Now, first and foremost, the thing comes up as it's a subscription. So how often do you have them? And the things you got to go through is, 1, how do you get on it? 2, how often they come out? 3, what your skip policy is looking like. Like, what if you don't want that book? And then some of the other little extras, like, are they signed? Are they stamped? Are they sometimes signed? Are they numbered? Is that going to drive up the desire to get them because you know it's limited? Because that does work on psyches. All right, so how often? Some of these are monthly, and a lot of these are monthly. What you do is you have a monthly subscription, and you get a book a month. You are charged every month. Depending on the subscription, you can skip and avoid the charge. Not all of them are going to play that game, and some of them are few and far between. Like Owlcrate, who I was just singing their praises of, on their quarterlies, you don't get to skip. You get the book. Turn around and resell it if you don't want it, I guess, or gift it to somebody if you don't want it. Which inevitably is going to happen that you already got that book from somebody else, or you already got that book in a like straight from a manufacturer, or if they are doing a special edition, or you got it from your bookstore. It's going to happen, and it's the cost of doing business. The wait list. Let's talk about the wait list, and this is our setup for some later discussions. Things like Broken Binding, over a year for their fantasy. Tier 2 subscription, we don't even know what the science fiction looks like. Tier 1, good luck. 9-10 years. And that's dependent upon, there's a limited number of those, it's 1,500. So if somebody doesn't quit, you don't move up. Like this last round, they didn't even have enough to even issue new tier 1s. They just didn't do it. The Fairy Loot, over a year into their adult. So if you want to get on their adult, well over a year. I think I mentioned Inkstone. I just got a number friend. She was early January and just got the offer. It's mid-August, so half a year there. Some of these have pretty good length waiting lists, and if you get bumped from it, you lose the benefits of it. Others of these you just go right in, like the Owlcrate YA. It was just there. Evernight was just there. They just posted on their thing and said, "Hey, do you want in? You can have a subscription." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll try it." And the reason why I could do it is because of the skip policies. Some of them have much better skip policies than others. I'll link to Amber's, let me find her name, the Autumn Book Reads. Everyone follows this person. She's fantastic amount of information on this topic. And she also is great at guessing about what book is coming up. Like somehow, somebody put out 3 emojis and she's like, "Oh, that's obviously the Phoenix Keeper." And I'm like, "You got that from that. Good job." And that was probably the easy one. I wouldn't have got it. Those are hard, but somehow she nails them. And but she also has things like the skip policies, because a lot of these book company or ones have some pretty different book skips. Let me do the ones I have off the top of my head. Fairy Loot, I think you get 3 a year, 3 or 4. Illumicrate is actually fantastic for this. Up to 10 in a row, past 10 in a row, they can cancel your subscription if they feel like it. For reference, I've done half of them. So half the offers I've had from them I've wanted, and so went ahead and bought. Owlcrate, unlimited. Again, I like a company that plays fair, and I think that's pretty much playing fair. Put out books I want. I'm in the YA because, well, I didn't get in the other one yet. Probably swap over to the other one when the adult comes in, because they, like this month's book I wanted. I bought it elsewhere, but not but I'm not a member of their things. I didn't get theirs. G2 broken binding is one series a year. Now the way they do it, typically, and this is they're actually breaking this for the next series starting up in the fall. They do trilogies. So they've traditionally done a trilogy. In fact, they traditionally go male author, female author, back forth. And that's how you discover some really interesting, good authors who you're like, oh, never even heard of you before, but people are loving your book, so I'm going to go read your book. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you get one that's just not for you. Okay. But the series, and they like to do completed series. Well, their skips are, you can skip one series a year. So you're paying for it. But the counter to them, as we'll talk in a bit, is you actually can resell broken bindings pretty easily. So I don't think that people are being punished on that one. I think they might have to go through some hoops. And if you live in a small country, if you're the English language reader on your island, yeah, okay, it could be kind of rough on you. Let's see, other ones. Litjoy, that Lunicorn thing is $10, and it'll just stack up. Yeah, so I think that's good at this point. I don't remember Goldsboro. It's off the top of my head. Page and Wix was a little restrictive, if memory serves. I don't want to be mean to them, so apologies if I'm wrong on that one. Again, I don't have subscriptions to those. But you got to watch some of those. As I put a little note down here. I have one that says, some are great, Illuminate. Some suck, Fairy Loot. Apparently, whoever did their website is the one who made their made their skip policy. Signed editions. So many of these are going to come in signed. In fact, most of these are going to come in signed. I think that's how several of the, at least for subscriptions, that's how they do them. Sometimes you're going to see there's an author who just can't sign. Maybe they're having some sort of medical issue. They've got something going on that they just can't hold a pen that long. Oftentimes, maybe they'll get like an illustrator to sign, or they'll have a stamp. Now, as long as they tell us ahead of time. Right? I prefer when it's very disclosed early. If it's a digital signature, all right, they just need to call that digital signature. That's not actually signed. Humble opinion. I know some people are being more forgiving on it than others. I'm not. It's signed means you've put a pen on the paper. If it's a digital one, or if it's on a book plate, you got to keep an eye on that. Now, some of these, you'll see that sometimes in subscription that they're book plates. Just keep your eye out for it. And if you don't care, if you're there for the quality of the book, okay, great. Also numbered. Some of them will number their editions. Now that's where it starts getting into the exclusion or exclusivity feel. And that's what a lot of people like. It's neat to go, hey, I have something. There's only 200 of these in the world, and I have one. Right? It calls to us. I realize it seems petty, and I tried hard not to do it. And yeah, I've got enough. I might have just replaced one of my sets. I might have a tier 1 set on the way, signed and numbered as opposed to just signed. In my defense, there's a doodle in that one, and I want the doodle. I know, it's ridiculous, but what can you do? All right, let's talk about when these things work. The good part of these. 1, they introduce you to new books, new authors. 2, hardcovers. A lot of times, there's not a hardcover. Now, as some of us have found from the States, a lot of times we can order from British hardcover companies and have them shipped over. There's a certain company, if you know them, that has free shipping to the States, and sometimes they're pretty good deals. And sometimes they obviously jack the price to cover it. But buyer beware. In the joy, there is definitely a joy when I come in and I see a yellow and black box, or I see the bright orange box, or I see I forget the Owlcrate color, the little Owlcrate one. There's something cool about that. There is. It's just, there's a dopamine rush about getting something cool. Maybe it's because I'm not a bookworm. I'm a book dragon. I need my hoard. Maybe. Let's talk about in introducing authors definitely good, especially the ones that have a little bit of understanding of, hey, we're going to have some mix-ups. Like I don't want the same thing every time. Like I don't care what the topic is or the level. I don't want everything to be from the, oh yeah, we just sell only Asian American fantasy. I love some Asian American fantasy. I wouldn't want a whole box of just that year after year or month after month. Like I want some diversity in the mix. What I really want is good stories. And that's where I think the better of these boxes are really good at that. That they don't look and go, oh, well, the author meets the following check marks. No, they say, the story's great. Oh, and the author happens to be. I think now you might need to break some barriers that we might still have some barrier breaking going on. Hopefully we get to where it's just about the quality of the book and quality of the story. And we can go with that. That would be my hope. Let's go up to the seedier side. First off is FOMO, fear of missing out. The fear of missing out drives book boxes. People buy a book and get the subscription because they don't want to be excluded. And it sucks to be excluded. Like I'm having to pay extra to get copies of, like, say, the Jade series, Jade City and those. Because I'm not yet a member, I have to pay more. And then I have to also wait longer to buy things that I want. And so there's always that, oh, am I going to have to wait longer to get it? Right? So what if I had a membership? Would I get ahead of the line? Well, that's absolutely what happened on Outcreate. I got the YA so I could get access to things that are subscriber sales. So 100% worked on me. But they have a very good skip policy, which is why I tolerate that from them. It does get a little seedier on some of the companies, though. I was watching Reddit, and one of the people on Reddit called out a certain company, may have been the first one we talked about, and called them out for having very good special editions that you need to be a member oftentimes to get. They don't print a lot, and so they sell out during member sales and never make it to general sales. But that their monthly books sometimes are not it. They're just not as good. So I believe the term I saw was that they have mediocre subscriptions to get you to buy the specials. That's seedy if it's on purpose. And somewhere somebody's going to be having to cut. You either got to raise prices as things go up, or sooner or later you're going to have to raise prices, or you're going to have to cut quality. And it looks like quality might be happening at a couple of these, which is sad. Right? The other side is, oh, you have special editions, but you don't have enough of them. So you're going to put out these monthly specials, but you didn't come anywhere close to what the demand is going to look like. So it's going to disappear very fast. And the way that you do this is, well, if you were a member, you would be able to get it. Or you'd have a much better chance to get it. Which means you're not going to cancel us, even though we just had our in-house illustrator who's not anywhere near the quality as when we pay for external artists. But we're going to have our in-house person do it. Also explains why a lot of them are looking the same. A lot of these book clubs, like if they sell a trilogy, here's the blue one, here's the green one, here's the purple one. Month in, month out. And they all have like the same frilling. It kind of looks like a filigree on the outside. And it takes away from the fun of it, right? The idea of being special is that it's special. Let's say expense. Wow, you can spend a lot of money on this. You got to ask yourself, now as somebody who's a very tactile reader, obviously I am buying books that I think will feel good in my hands. If you can do ebooks, yeah, okay, it's a lot cheaper. Right? Although there are special edition ebooks, which is confusing. And then there's also just the expense of the month in, month out. Like if they're not having skips, what are you going to do? Are you going to lose your place? Are you going to lose the ability to get that special series that you really, really want because you haven't been paying them their monthly blood money in exchange for a book that if you resold it, you're going to lose money? But then the other half of it is, well, okay, then do they not have enough? Did they artificially drive up demand and then keep people who want copies from getting them? It's always worth. 2, shipping. Oh my goodness, the shipping costs. I have bought books that the shipping cost was higher than the book. This is to the United States. This is, major Western country to Western country, and it's still that. And if you're getting a box a month, or let's say you're getting 3 or 4 a month, the shipping costs are going to start going up. And you look at it, and all of a sudden you're spending $50, $60, $100 a month in shipping. And that's just off those. That's before you even buy the special editions, before you buy those extra ones. And I keep talking about special editions. Let me give you an example. Right now, the last 3 months, for the previous 3 months, Broken Binding did the Liza Locke-Lamora series. Oh, you can see a couple of them there. Then they followed up with Jade City, right? And did that series. The reason I got Broken Binding was because they're going to have Malazan. And then I kept him because they're also going to have Sun Eater. So we're going to have these 2 series. They don't even count for the subscription. Now, Broken Binding's pretty good about it. They actually printed 7,500, bunches of them. So a ton of Malazan. And then they said, hey, we'll just keep shipping. We're going to build more if we need them. Like they got agreement to do that. So they're going to take care of everybody. Will be able to get a copy of the book if they want. Maybe not an exclusive, signed version, but you're going to be able to get the book. Some of these other groups don't do that game. And sometimes it's because they can't. Like Illumicrate said they would love to reprint the Bridgerton, but they can't. So that set's going for, what's it going for? Like $900, $800 online for the Bridgerton set. Costs a person like $130. Turn around and sell it for $850. And that's the other seedy side, is the resellers. Sometimes you'll see, like, I've got it's up too far. I was going to point out one of the series that I managed to get, but it's up a shelf that you can't see. Managed to get, they had like 100 of these copies of this set, and I managed to get one. Oh. Well, actually this one, that's one. No, wait, that was a public sale. Never mind. That one I just managed to get the signed one. But these other ones, you'll see people buy them, they race, they try to get ahead of everybody to get them, and then immediately turn around and sell it for a ridiculous price. Resellers make it hard. This is like, I remember there's a YouTuber, I think he's in town. He would go around and buy all the Funko Pops. He'd go to every store and buy them all. And then try to sell them on it for a huge markup. Yeah, that's when you wish the government would go, where's your license, please? Where's your business license on that one? But the resellers, it's one thing, like if, let's say I get in a book and I don't like it. Or better yet, like today, I sold a book today. But it's because I replaced it with the Broken Binding edition. And so I sold my hardback. Yeah, that's fair. But the people who race to get in, just remember, it happens. I mean, we can talk judgment on it, or you can defend yourself on it all you want. In the end, it just happens. If it's a hot book, people are going to come out of the woodwork trying to get it. And that's maybe where the subscription helps, but maybe not, because that's when you're getting things. Like, I'm going to keep going on Broken Binding for a bit, just because it's the one I'm most familiar with and one I hang out with the most. I don't know why I'd ever get rid of a tier 1 if I had it. You can turn around and sell those books for a profit every time. And it's locked in. Like the tier 1 people who were the original subscribers, right? So help them get it going. They're just almost guaranteed profit at this point. And if you're in a major market, if you're in the UK, if you're in the United States, Canada, France, Netherlands, some of these markets that are really, there's a lot of people who read from there, you can be able to resell every time. Which of course means they're never leaving. And that's where you get these long waits. And of course, as we talked, the non-subscription editions or the non-subs, which can come in great. I mean, I love that Broken Binding did Malazan as a non-sub. It's 10 books. You wouldn't want to give up 10 months of something when the idea is that you get to try 4 authors a year at least. You get to spread them out. Let's go to this. Couple things. Are book clubs worth it? Now, there is an interesting topic we were talking about on one of the Discords where somebody postulated that perhaps it's not worth it to get a tier 2, say, broken binding. Instead, save your money and just buy tier 1s off of people selling them when they get them and don't like them. Or they get them and they're going to sell them for 100% profit. Maybe it's better if you really wanted the signed and numbered editions anyways, that it might be better to do that and just not buy the tier 2, which aren't signed and or aren't numbered. And so then you'd be trying to sell those off and get new ones anyways. It's an interesting concept. I mean, I will definitely go for the tier 2 as soon as they offer it, just because because they get discounts on buying things. And like, for instance, it was £10 cheaper for a subscriber to get the Malazan series, the first set, than it is for me as a general purchaser, which kind of sucks because I've been sitting on the wait list. Right? They had an interest list where they told people, you don't need to be a subscriber to get it. They didn't mention, by the way, it's going to be cheaper if you are. That would have been a good hint. That would have been nice to know. The other side of it is also sometimes these wait lists, that is something I want to talk about. The wait lists and the flaw in how they are set up. Let's go for this. This is going to sound like sour grapes. Well, Argentinian Malbec grapes, at least. Wait list. Why on earth can you just put your name on the list and get priority over people who buy? What company, that seems like madness. I think the company would be like, no, you get so many points and you'd have a rank system. The more you buy from us, the higher your ranking would go. You might think, well, that's not democratic, but it's a business. And if the idea is that you're going to turn around and you weren't able to afford the books now, why would you be able to afford them when you have the subscription? So I kind of wonder why they don't do more of that kind of analysis and go, if you bought directly from us, look, I get it. If you're a book seller, unless you're something like, the bigs, like, the people who sell the higher end editions, for the regular groups like Broken Binding, Illumicrate, Fairy Loot, they don't make money off anybody reselling. So why would they support that? Why would they care? Why wouldn't they just go, you know what, who buys from us, you should get to jump ahead on the line. And maybe you don't call it a line then. You call it a relative rated position of worth. That person who's been buying from them for 3 years ostensibly has spent more money. So maybe you could have some sort of combination, right? A loyalty factor with a cost factor, because just because you put your name on the list and then didn't buy crap from them for 2 years, should you really be considered to be a better or more deserving person? I got my doubts on that. I think it's probably just more like it's easier. They just have a list and go, who's next? Yeah. All right. Otherwise, is it worth it again? Well, I mean, do you like the books? Do you like special editions? Then yes. Do you want access to special sales that may sell out, and so you're going to get subscriber just to get to them? I mean, that's a personal choice. You might be. Like I said, I did it, but I did it at the cheaper one. Not sure I'd do it for Fairy Loot. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Fairy Loot, 4 skips per year. And it's a rotating, per rolling calendar year, so it kind of rotates. And if you do have separate subscriptions, you get 4 in each. All right. Let's see. This was, by the way, the Autumn Book Reads and her skip policy, which I'll put in the notes. It'll be in the description, so you can get it there. Illumicrate, they have, again, 10. Owlcrate's unlimited skips. Page and Wix, unlimited skips up to 6 in a row. Wow, I take back any... Sorry, Page and Wix. And Goldsboro was limited to 4 skips per year. I wish I remembered I wrote this on the previous page. I wrote it a couple days ago. So, anyways, that's the book boxes and book subscriptions. Again, I have some. I'm trying to get more. At that point, I don't know what I'll keep. To a degree, I try to buy a book from a vendor or two and then look to see if I like their editions. A cheap way, if you want to try that yourself, just go on to Pango or eBay or any of the other reseller sites and just search for the name of the vendor. And then double check to make sure, because people will tag all sorts of stupid things with the wrong tags. Oh, this is a broken binding. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, I've seen fairy loots get tagged as broken binding because some person just tagging every tag they can tag. So I guess you're allowed to lie on those. But try them out. Bring the books in. See. And legitimately, if it doesn't bring you extra happiness, why would you ever do that? Why wouldn't you just get the books from a standard bookseller? And there's still a lot of point. One other one too, before we end, is there is a problem with ordering online, and that means it reduces the fun of going to bookstores in person. I have found that I more spend time watching my kids buy books at Barnes & Noble than I buy books at Barnes & Noble now. I buy a lot from them just on sales, pre-order sales ahead of time, and they show up in the mail. So it cuts in. It does. It cuts into a little bit of the fun. All right. I ended that one on a bummer. Hey, thanks for coming along. Thanks. My goodness, we've been talking for a while. Thanks for putting up with me, and catch you next time. See ya. Also, Fairy Loot. Seriously, that website's going to go.